go to the corruption, let's talk about another aspect of ethics, and that is conflict of interest. Conflict of interest. I won't spend my time on conflict of interest, but it is a very important concept, especially in Africa, because of the desire to improve our own personal resources. In our part of the world, when people look for jobs, when people look for opportunities, like several of you, you have started, you want to start NGO, you want advocacy and that, but the truth of the matter is that genuinely, maybe from today you change your mind. Several of you are starting the NGOs because of your personal interest. You want to help people, all right, but you also have it at the back of your mind that because Yali may give you capital. I know those of you who are into entrepreneurship, Yali may give you capital, so you are thinking of, you make something, even though you use something to help others. It is right, there's nothing wrong. But the fundamental question is, as soon as you have such an interest, one, to satisfy yourself, your relatives, whether materially, whether fame, good name, or praises, that is one. As soon as you have this, and at the same time you want to promote or protect the public interest, I can assure you the two are mutually exclusive. What it means is that you can't achieve the two at the same time. It is always about either you achieve left or your own interest or you achieve the public interest. It is when you are in a situation that you have to choose between promoting the public interest or promoting your public interest that we say that there is conflict of interest. The two are mutually exclusive. As people have said over and over again, we have all kinds of parables and proverbs that we say in various local countries that you cannot use both eyes to look into a bottle. If you want to look into the bottle using the two eyes, it is the nose that we see inside the bottle. And you know the nose doesn't have an eye, so you end up not seeing inside the bottle at all. A certain man also said that two bulls, you know, they have horns. Two bulls can never drink from a single bucket because of the horns. They will lock it because the horns are very long, and so as soon as they bend the head to drink from the same bucket is not that big enough, the horns will lock. That is what we are talking about, conflict of interest. You either pursue the public one, that's your priority. As soon as you do that, you sacrifice your private one. Or you pursue private one, as soon as you do that, automatically you sacrifice this. You can't achieve the two. So why are we here? Which one are we trying to achieve? Which one are we trying to pursue? And that is the concept of public interest. We have a duty to be loyal to our workers, to be loyal to our organization, to be loyal to the community, the people that we use their names. We call ourselves Child Rights Movement, Girls' Rights Movement, educate the girl child. Is that what we are doing? Or we are doing that with the aim of getting certain things that without joining the organization or forming the organization, we can never achieve. Then it is a problem. And so it is very important for us to understand the concept of conflict of interest. But one interesting thing I want us to share is that no one here should dream of staying away from conflict of interest because it is inevitable. Conflict of interest occurs every day, no matter what you do. You are a human being. You can't live without wearing clothes. You can't live without eating. You have family, you have friends. You belong to groups, religious, schools, and so definitely you have an interest to pursue in life. And you have also taken an oath to pursue the public interest. When I said an oath, it doesn't mean that you are given a written oath for you to say it. No. Several of us, all of us, we have taken oath, sometimes unconsciously. The fact that you accepted, you pronounced, you suggested that you want to do something to improve the well-being of humanity is an oath. You have taken an oath. And so it is very important for us to understand that these two will always come into conflict, and that is conflict of interest. There is nothing wrong to have conflict of interest. No. When you are in between two decisions, this will help me and lose organization's interest, or organization's interest and I'll lose my personal interest. There's nothing wrong when you're in that state. What is wrong is our inability to make the right decision that impact positively on the organization. And so conflict of interest is not wrong, but what results from conflict of interest is what could be wrong. And every profession, whatever you do, if you're a lawyer, you have a case, clearly. Or if you're a judge, not that someone has given you money, clearly you see the person, you relate to the person brought to you. Either you relate to the person positively, so you want to do something to help the person, or the person did something bad to you some time back, and you have the opportunity to pay the person back. That is it. In football, the referees. Every referee is a sport fan. To be a referee in a football, it means you love the sport. Once you love football, you will definitely have a team you admire. So you are in the middle. Your team and another team is playing, you have not demonstrated to anyone, there's a conflict of interest. Or a team that is competing with your team is playing another one, your team is not playing, conflict of interest. Whatever we do in life, but what I'm saying is, the most important thing is when you are in this dilemma, which we call predicament, those who study psychology, they call it dissonance. When you are in this state, your ability to do the right thing to ensure that you don't sacrifice the public interest for the personal interest is what we are talking about. And so, how do we ensure that in conflict of interest situations, we don't do the wrong thing? There are two ways. One, as soon as there is conflict of interest, we must disclose. Tell people that, please, the interview that we are going to have this morning that I'm supposed to chair and make the final decision, one of the participants is my brother-in-law. And so, therefore, I want to stay away. You decide. If the person is picked, that's okay. Don't go and tell them that this one is my brother-in-law, and so, therefore, I'm withdrawing. If you are the overall boss, they will still select your brother-in-law. But tell them, one of them is my brother-in-law, so I don't want to go. Stay away. Remove yourself from the case. Yes, I'm the judge. Please, I'm supposed to sit on this case. But I have an interest in one of the parties of the case. Don't say the accused or the complainant. Withdraw. So whenever there is a conflict of interest situation, to help us to come out with the best situation, clean conscience, we are obliged to disclose. Let them know that I know someone, I may be affected, I may be biased because I know someone in this particular situation. And when this happens, you are likely to have the best results without involving yourself in unethical behavior. The second way of dealing with conflict of interest is to come out with clear policy guidelines. Write it down. In several of the countries, we have ways of handling public conflict of interest. In Ghana, we have it in the civil service law. We have it in the national constitution. In Nigeria, you also have it in several of your laws. And I know in all the countries you do have them. What about your organization? It will be important, even if you're adopting it from the national constitution, just extract it, take it out, and make it, publicize it, discuss it, share with every participant, including your suppliers, and let them know that whenever this happens, these are the measures to help us so that we do the right thing. And that is the concept of public conflict of interest. The next issue, as we are approaching the final topic that we need to focus attention on, is the ultimate, that is corruption and accountability. We've looked at ethics, and then corruption breeds unethical behavior. Why must we spend time on corruption and accountability? Because it has serious negative implications on national development, on individual lives, on the image of the country, on the future generation, on everything about society. And so corruption impacts so negatively. It undermines accountability, and it undermines the effectiveness of the institutions that we all seek to enhance and empower. And so it is very important for us to understand, because corruption can breed conflict. Several military coups that we have experienced in our part of the world, where, at least according to the coup makers, they argue that regimes they had to overthrow were corrupt. And so once it's there and the perception is there, then it is not good. It has serious impact. Because things that, if you have to decide, make a decision, and because of bias and favoritism, you make the wrong decision, the country cannot move forward. And so our planning, people steal money and award contracts to people who are not competent. So a road that is supposed to last for 25 years, every 5 years in Africa, we are reconstructing road. You go back and look at your national budgets. Every single year, road construction is there. If you are spending 50 years of a country's life to construct road, when will you focus attention on the other sectors? A particular road, I have seen a particular road that has been, since I grew up and I saw road construction, it has been reconstructed more than 5-6 times. Go elsewhere, there are roads that have been there for 70 years, 50 years. So then you have, if you construct the road for 50 years, then you have 49 years to do other things. But before you come back to reconstruct that road. But every single year, there are particular roads in your country, I know, go and check, that have been in the national budget for over 10 years. Every year, that road is in it. I have it in my country, and you also have it in your country. What is wrong with us? Because of corruption. It affects economic growth, it affects governance, institutions are made weak, and we need to do something about it. It's very important. It is very, very important. There are some specific examples here. In fact, there's one about Sierra Leone that I would like to all of us to read. That global demand for rough diamond in Sierra Leone was sustained, even when the world knew the proceeds were lining the pocket of President Steven Siaka. This practice generated a shadow economy, weakening state capacity and legitimacy, and fueled the conflict at the time. Because they know, they were aware that all the monies were going somewhere, and they supported it. And what happened? The conflict. When people, corruption is one of the main causes of conflict and revolution, because we say some are chopping and others are starving. And so, why not? And so there are other examples that you can spend time to look at. So the question is, what are we talking about? Try and go back and try and understand. We're talking about misuse of state resources. You can say that is corruption. Or the use of organization or state resources to advance private cause. The private cause, sometimes you don't take anything tangible. It could be influence. Because I am the minister, I use that position to seek admission for my child at the university. It's corruption. Will you have been given the opportunity if not because of that position? No. And so when you talk about corruption, there are so many ways. There are so many. In fact, defining it is very difficult. But the bottom line is, when you use that resources that you are supposed to use to do something for the general good, for your personal benefit, or to benefit people because they know you. We say that behavior is corruption. Very interesting. Look at these two guys. You spend time and look at it. This man down there has a problem. His conscience is killing him because to him, why do I have to pretend to care when I don't? And I don't. He's pretending. But this man has become so engrossed, he has developed the appetite to the extent that he's here to console him, to encourage him that it's normal. And so he says, there, oh chap, of course, you don't care. Now come along, put yourself together. Don't worry about it. Let's go. The other parties did it. In the other countries, they are doing it. Oh, look at the other organization. All my colleagues are doing it. Please. Corruption is bad. And it can take so many forms. So many. You have the one that involves little amounts. Yes. Maybe $500, $1,000, $2,000, $4,000, $5,000. We call it petty corruption, just like petty stealing. And then we have the mega one. Yes, substantial amount of money that that exchange hands. And that's one we say grand corruption or petty corruption. We have looting, which some people have described as plutocracy, especially in Africa. And here it goes beyond the grand one. Here, usually the money is taken from a state or an organization and deposited in a different organization. And then we have the systemic one, which is routine. It's there. It's like a cartel. They will do it. It's like what Nigerians experience in their oil industry. It's routine until a whole president decides to take over a ministry and become the minister. And so we're talking about systemic when it has become a norm. It's like if you come to several of our countries, if you come to Ghana, for instance, if you want to clear your things from the port or driving among the commercial drivers, between them and motor traffic unit people, it's routine. It's normal to the drivers to pay. It's normal to those who receive it to also take it. It's normal. And some of you, I know you have heard about our journalists, investigative journalists who understudied some judges and how they were collecting the bribes. It's routine, systemic, it's normal. The lawyers knew, and so once your case is sent there, you just go home, you discuss it, and you pay. And those paying are aware that they know even the rate. Oh, for this type of case, you pay this much for this type of case. And that's what we're talking about. And none of these is good. They are very, very bad. Then we can also talk about even the political one, whereby rules are clearly bent. The rules of the game, for instance, it could be election. How the rules governing it are clearly not followed. Bureaucracy decides to do things against the laid down rules to favor a particular interest. And that is also corruption. And we are saying that these acts affect society in so many ways. They can bring about conflict, affect governance institutions, they weaken them, and they negatively affect or they hinder socio-economic growth.